Hey Blair, welcome to the MasterCard Cup. Just want to give you an opportunity here to view your swing at regular speed. Let that play on through. We'll put you back in your dress position, and we'll go ahead and take a look at a few things for you. So while we got you back here in your dress position, let's first of all take a look at your posture, which looks really good. Spine straight and on a nice tilt. Legs come down into a nicely unlocked position. Arms hang down nice and naturally in front of you. And the club works out to the ball. So you're achieving really good posture here in association with excellent balance. Looks really, really good. At this point in time, let's go ahead and pay attention to your alignment. We can see your feet aiming in this direction. Carry that out towards the fairway. Now, theoretically, your club face is supposed to run parallel to your feet, and parallel lines on camera would have an appearance to converge. And with that philosophy in mind, we can see you're set up right down the center of the fairway, so that's terrific. But I do want to look at your upper body and how you position it relative to your lower body. Unfortunately, we can see your left arm underneath your right arm. This tells us from this vantage point that your forearms are considerably open to your feet. So if I were to lay an alignment tool along your forearms are aiming in that direction, and so are your shoulders. So I'm a little concerned that you may swing the golf club on a swing path that comes too far from outside to inside. Obviously, we'll start the ball somewhere in this direction, and then you'll want to leave the face open, impart a little bit of left to right spin, and hit some form of a fade to try and get that ball on line, as opposed to swinging the golf club on plane if your shoulders and arms were in a better position. So let's go ahead and do a little split screen comparison between you and Jordan Spieth. Got some color-coded lines on the screen just to use as a visual reference as it pertains to swing plane. Notice before we take a look at the swing, we cannot see his left arm underneath his right arm. Okay? So as he initiates his takeaway, creates good shoulder rotation, brings the arms and hands back as well as the club. We want to see the club coming back on plane directly along the red line. Also, in the early stages of the golf swing, we want to incorporate some good wrist hinge into play, which means we need to transition the club head from being currently below and in front of our hands to getting that club head above and behind our hands. This is a very important transitional move in the early stages of the golf swing. And notice the club is still on the red line. From here, we're now going to work the club from red up towards the blue-yellow V zone. When we finally set the club at the top of the backswing, we either want to have the left arm of the club on the yellow line, anywhere between the blue-yellow V zone, or physically up on blue, as we can see with Jordan Spieth. We also want to have full shoulder rotation. We want to do this about a very stable right leg, all the while maintaining our posture axis that we achieved at address. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at your backswing here, we can see that you pop your hands sort of out and around. At this point in time, I want you to notice your shoulders and arms. Your shoulders and arms are now square to your feet. This is where I want you to be at address, but with the club head behind the ball. Unfortunately, the club head's already moved back about 2.5 to 3 feet. So we go back to address again, you're open. We come back to here, shoulders and arms are square. Okay, so what we want you to do at address is maybe take your shoulders and arms, turn them clockwise, get your shoulders and arms squared up to your feet, all the while keeping your club head in behind the golf ball. Then initiate your takeaway from there. Anyways, as we continue to move back here, hands are obviously drawing the club back and inside. Club's getting laid off. We definitely got to get some wrist hinge into play to get this club head above your hand shortly. Still laid off, not a lot of wrist hinge occurring. Still laid off, not much wrist hinge still occurring. And we can still see the golf club being laid off. So we've moved this golf club back a considerable distance, really haven't created a much wrist hinge, and the club is laid off. Right about here, we start seeing the club shaft steepen out a little and recover. And let's see where we finally set this at the top. We haven't got a lot of wrist hinge, and what we need to understand about wrist hinge, it does two primary things for you. Wrist hinge in the backswing creates club travel. So we don't have to overswing our arms to get the club back as far as it needs to go. The other thing wrist hinge does for you is it creates club head speed. Because when we create wrist hinge going back, it's going to allow us to retain a lot of angle, and that's going to give us a lot of snap going through the ball, like a pitcher throwing a ball. He reaches back with his arm, he cocks his wrist, he follows through, and when last second, he snaps that wrist. If we don't have that wrist hinge in a golf swing, we got nothing to snap on the way through, and we're effectively not really swinging the mass of the golf club. So we got a lot of run on here because there isn't any club travel via wrist hinge. So we're really letting the arms now get out of position. The right elbow's flying. And now we finally stop the golf club. We can see very clearly the club is across the line. It's not within the blue-yellow V zone. You may also be a little steep with your arms, meaning your left arm. See, I would prefer your left arm to be down on the yellow line. I actually prefer almost all amateur players to have their left arm closer to the yellow line because it helps the club to return back to red on the way down and to come into the ball from on plane. The steeper we get, the harder it is for amateur players to do this. So at this point in time, you've turned well, stable right side, you've maintained your posture and your axis. Your arm geometry is not bad relative to your core, although your arms, your right elbow's flying maybe a little bit and the arms are trying to get in behind you a bit because you haven't created club travel via creating wrist hinge. And the club's definitely out of position. At this point in time, as we create our transition back into the ball, simply want to move our weight from our right foot to our left. We want to fire our knees and our hips laterally to the target. We want to unwind our core, and we want to fire our hands. And in doing so, we want to bring the club from that blue-yellow V zone back down onto red. And that's exactly what we see here with Jordan Spieth. The golf club is returning back to being on plane. The other thing we want to observe at this stage of the golf swing is the relationship between the lead form and the golf club. I refer to this as the backwards check mark. This simply means the club head right now is remaining above and behind his hands coming into the hitting zone. This is what's going to allow us to create a lot of power in our golf swing, along with his ability to hit the ball straight due to the fact that the club has returned back to plane, which is a main criteria in producing straight golf shots. So let me take them back down to address again. I had stipulated that creating wrist hinge is a very, very important part of the golf swing, whereby we're going to take the club head from being below and in front of our hands to getting the golf club via wrist hinge above and behind the hands. Well, do you notice? He's in the exact same checkmark position. All we do now is we get up to that blue-yellow V zone and we return the club right back into that same checkmark position. This right here is the most important part of the golf swing. So let's go ahead and watch you create your transition back into the ball here. So hands are making a pretty good move. They're a little over the top. You're fighting to keep the club head in behind your hand. So at this point in time, what we can take a look at is the relationship between your lead forearm and your club. And we've got a backwards check mark. So creating some power in your golf swing won't be an issue. The only problem right now is the club really hasn't returned close enough to plane just yet. So if we continue to track your club head coming into the ball, let's go to the next frame and see where your club goes. Yeah, so it falls to here. So if we were to connect the dots, this will give you a good visual as to the descending plane of your club. So it stayed on top of the red line. What we can see with Jordan Spieth, his club returned back to the red line here and tracks into the golf ball precisely from this red line. And this is, as I've already stated, this is what produces straight golf shots in accordance to our alignment. Assuming lastly, club face squares up via having a good grip. So you're a little bit on top of your plane. You're going to be attacking the ball a little bit from outside to inside. So we can clear this stuff off the screen. We can see with Jordan Spieth that his club is inside the ball. Club expands out to make contact and moves through in a nice natural subtle arc. Your club was a little bit too much behind the ball, striking the ball, and then moving left too aggressively. See where it's going? It's going too hard to the left. So if you happen to square the club face up to that path, obviously what's going to happen is we're going to pull the ball in this direction. If you over-release the club to the same path, we'll hit a pull draw or a pull hook. If we leave the club face a little bit open to the path, this will be great because then we can start the ball a little right of where we're swinging, leaving the face a little open, a little left to right spin, and we create a nice little soft fade that finds its intended target. If we leave the club face too open, incredibly we'll start the ball even further right even though we're swinging left. At that point in time we need to realize the club face was massively open. we're imparting way too much left to right spin, and we're going to hit a block slice. So the end result of your golf shot is dictated based on the timing of the club face. Because the club is attacking the ball from outside, striking the ball, and moving across a little. If we happen to square the club face up to that path, it'll follow red. If we over-release the club to the path, it'll continue down the smaller red arrows. If we leave the club face wide open, the ball's going way right, and if we time it properly, it'll find the intended target. I just want to look at your footwork here. I like the fact that your right heel's off the ground through impact. Let's see if you finish off that footwork and carry yourself through a good finish, and you do. So all I really want to do is just bring you back to just before impact here, knowing you're attacking the ball a little steep, a little bit from out to in. And let's see what your club face does through the impact zone. Unfortunately, your club's a little bit high as well, so unfortunately you're hitting this ball a little bit low on the face of the club, so you're not going to get a very good launch angle. The ball's going to be hit very low. Looks like the club face squared up, so the ball is definitely heading left. I can see the ball right there, so I can point that out to you. So your golf ball is right at the tip of that arrow. So it appears that it is headed a little bit left, and again, depending on what happened to that club face will dictate how much further left or whether it travels to the right, simply based on what that club face is doing. Overall, really nice athletic motion from you. I mean, your hands work great. Your hands come back. They fire through. Your core works well. You coil. You uncoil. You've got great footwork that allows you to get through to a good finish. Alignment's pretty solid there, as we discussed. Only issue was your arms and shoulders were a little bit open. And the reason why I talked about this is because I was concerned that you might swing the club a little out to in because of that arm plane, and that's exactly what's occurring here. We're getting to the top of your swing. We're coming over the top, and we are swinging that golf club a little steep and a little from out to in. At that point in time, it's all relative to based on what that club face does. Club face squares up too much, bye-bye left, stays too open, off to the right, and if you time it okay, you'll hit an okay golf shot. The other thing obviously we need to see here, and you will hit better golf shots from time to time when you get the ball higher in the face. You won't hit them so low, and your launch angle will be way better, and we'll get a much better ball flight. Anyways, a lot of potential here from you. Got a lot of athletic characteristics. Just need to solidify some little bit more fundamental, strategic things that need to occur in the golf swing, and you could be right there. Okay? Anyways, I hope you had a fabulous day. Hope you enjoyed getting an opportunity to see your swing on video. If at any point in time you ever want to work on any of these aspects of your golf game, I'm located over at Glen Abbey in Oakville. Be happy to structure a little program for you. Okay? Anyways, again, hope you had a great day, and hope you enjoy the rest of the fall here, and hopefully we get a chance to play a little bit more golf. Take care.